All right, everybody, as you saw on our starting lineup live stream this week on Facebook, Sergeant Paul Tapau was here, and he actually took us to the Dedido Precinct, the Northern Precinct Command for GPD, showing us how physical fitness is a key element of being an effective police officer. Sarge is here right now. So, Sarge, thanks so much for having us. Sabrina had a blast, going through that obstacle course, and that is no joke.
She did great. She was spent, and I think that's really important that she had an opportunity to experience that because as officers, and she really highlighted the importance of the aspects of what we were doing. And you're right, the physical aspect and what we do is important to keeping us as officers safe, and of course the community. But she did a great job.
And we want to send a special shout out to two friends of ours in GPD, Officer Jesselyn Diego and Officer Mike Wynn, who helped us out. They were observing, they were making sure she did everything correct. And that's the one thing, because it's like, okay, anybody can do training, and you can just say, give me 200 push-ups, give me 500 sit-ups, and do pump a bunch of weights. But the training and the way that obstacle course is structured is everything there actually has tactical applications for you and your colleagues as police officers, right? You're working on specific skills to use specific muscle groups, right?
Absolutely, and it's a corporate of a circuit training type workout, or those type of workouts that we're starting to see now, more of the the CrossFit example, because once you get into the mode of a foot pursuit, actually engage with the officer and of course the suspect. Remember, the whole concept of that is to really be calm and under duress, and be able to make this life decision skills that is going to keep you alive, and of course keep the community safe. So many different things are happening, and what Sabrina probably didn't understand or probably didn't incorporate was the adrenaline that every officer goes through in situations like that. And of course, it's really hard to mimic that in a stage area. But when you're face to face with a situation that that it's going to get dicey and things may happen, it's really how are you able to manage your adrenaline? Because that's really adrenaline is great, but if you don't know how to manage it, it can be your worst enemy, because you can hit an adrenaline high, and when that high is gone, it now becomes an adrenaline dump, and your body may not be able to handle that. And this is why the POPAT, the police officers physical agility test, is designed that way, so that every muscle, every movement, it incorporates that of a situation that we may encounter in line police work. And
also, for the one thing that really surprised me was when Sabrina was going through the test and through the course, you said, okay, now I need you to discharge, what was it, 6 rounds with your dominant hand off of this firearm, and then switch hands and go from your weak hand. That actually may happen in the field too. You may find yourself as an officer compromised, and you need to be able to perform with either hand, right?
Absolutely. And really, if you put a workout into perspective, right, the most important thing is, of course, the oxygen to the brain. You're moving at different muscles are demanding the oxygen. So the brain has to be able to tell you what the threat, you're perceiving the threat, and how do you react to that, whether you have the ability to use your dominant hand, or you have to use contact and cover and actually use another position where you may have to use your weak support hand. So it's really how are you going to be able to manipulate in a safe, tactical way. And you can't just go out there with just brute force. You got to be methodical in how you're going to approach things. Being able to manipulate a handcuff, she had a hard time, and we repeatedly told her, be careful in where you're placing your handcuffs. And that's one of the aspects in which we teach our officers in officer survival is you're placing in handcuffs. Me personally, I like everything in front, because I work better that way, and I practice that. And when the situations come where I'm able to draw my weapon or draw my handcuffs or have my radio and my flashlight, I can actually manipulate everything, and I know where it's at. But her understanding that, and of course understanding the role as a police officer, these are things in which we train for, and that's why the utility or the duty gear was essential, and it was important part of the POPAT, because you got to be able to know where your gears are and how it works and how you're able to deploy it.
Now, before we get to our crime of the week, I do want to ask you, because there's not a whole lot that in your 20-some years as an officer of the law that you haven't seen, right? But you always emphasize that any member of GPD, from the chief all the way, to police reservist, you're trained to be a professional practitioner of the law. So when you're going through like a very scary situation, or you may have people you're trying to protect, how do you balance, the natural human intuition to say, like, I want to go all, I want to use every single bit of my energy to, restrain this person, or I want to be professional, because you still have a job to do as a cop. You've got to read them their rights. You've got to restrain them. You've got to, there's a bunch of protocol you have to follow.
It's training. It really it is. It's you don't become. You're not born into a police. You're not born into being a police officer. The training will dictate how you're going to be able to perform your duties. And training is really important because you got to practice. You got to keep practicing. Proficiency is going to require you to practice. Perfection is really covered under practice.
Because at that point, it just becomes like muscle memory and
instinct.
It
does. It becomes instinctive after that. You know what you need to do. You know that I need to write the report. You still got to protect the individual's constitutional rights, but you also got to safeguard your safety. And this is why it's important that type of POPAT training. Everything's asking for oxygen, and like I said, the most important thing is the brain being able to think under duress, being able to remain calm. It's really important, and this is where, this is what I call the matrix effect, is when everything slows down for you and you're able to see things and be able to adjust. So it's really the perception of how am I going to be able to handle this, or what is my next move? Do I put everything here? Do I exert this? Do I use all my energies to get over the wall? What is my next move after that? So a lot of things come into play, but instinctively and of course the training, it enables the officers to do their jobs, to be able to carry out their duties and their responsibility, and of course to execute their job in safeguarding the community.
All right, more from the sergeant in just a moment, but here is your crime of the week.
The Guam Crime Stoppers and the Guam Police Department is seeking the help from the community relative to an armed robbery that occurred on Wednesday, January 29th on Governor Carlos Camacho Road in Tamuning by the Onward Beach Resort Hotel. Now, the preliminary police report suggests that around 10:18 that evening, 4 female tourists were walking by the Onward Beach Resort when 2 unknown men armed with handguns demanded money. The unknown men then fled with their belongings in a light-colored sedan. The suspects were only described as: Suspect number 1 is only described as male, standing about 5'10", weighing between 165 to 170 pounds, having a dark complexion, and was last seen wearing a black long-sleeve shirt and dark pants. This suspect had a black bandana over his head with a red bandana covering his face. Suspect number 2 is also a male, standing about 5'2" to 5'5" inches in height, weighing between 155 to 165 pounds. Suspect number 2 is also described as having dark complexion and was last seen wearing a long-sleeve shirt and black pants, with a red bandana covering his face. As a result of the robbery, 2 victims have sustained minor injuries. However, they refuse any medical treatment. Should anyone who may have witnessed or may have any information about this robbery, you're encouraged to call our GPD dispatchers at 472-8911 or submit a tip online at guam.crimestoppersweb.com. If you have any information about this case, please call the Guam Crime Stoppers at 477-HELP or text 688-STOP. You can also visit our webpage at www.guam.crimestoppersweb.com or call the Guam Police Department at 475-8615, 6 or 7. Guam Crime Stoppers wants to remind the public that we do not use caller ID and you do not have to leave your name. You can receive a cash reward of up to $1,000 if the information provided leads to the arrest and conviction for the person or persons responsible for this crime or any other crime.
All right, Sarge, thanks. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
All right, stay tuned. We're back after this.